Hey, Horse Center fans, we have a big show this week. We hope you watch because we're talking three huge Kentucky Derby preps, Matt.
We sure do. And this is the last chance to get into the Kentucky Derby field for a lot of horses.
That's right, Matt. Santa Anita Derby, Wood Memorial, Bluegrass. There's some preps next week, but big ones this week, and we are isolating them as our races of the week right here on Horse Center. Watch it all now. Welcome to another edition of Horse Center, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Shipman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm good, Brian, and setting aside the tough things that are going on in racing right now, nothing better than sitting here doing the show and talking about great racing with you, Brian.
I feel the same, my man. Let's jump into this huge day of racing Saturday, because we got big Kentucky Derby preps. We have big cards, California, New York, and Kentucky, Matt. So it's a lot to cover. Let's get to it. We're going to start out in California. It's been a season of heartbreak and tragedy out at Santa Anita. We're hoping everything goes well for their big day of racing. This is their biggest day of racing, the first half of the year. Saturday, it's Santa Anita Derby Day, among other things, Matt. And we have the champion, no longer undefeated, but we have Game Winner making his second start of the year. And I think he's still the Kentucky Derby favorite as of now, but I think he needs to win on Saturday to retain that title heading to Louisville.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. I think if he does win that Santa Anita Derby, then we probably have identified the favorite for this wide open Kentucky Derby this year. Only 6 going in the Santa Anita Derby, and it sure looks like game winner's race to win or lose. It seems like the good Game Winner on the top of his game should win this race. It's 1 1/8 miles. We know that he can handle that distance. Not so sure about the rest of the field.
Yeah, the Bob Baffert trained Son of Candy ride has been terrific in all his starts, and I'm even including the loss last time where he just missed in the Rebel after a layoff, getting up against Omaha Beach. Good return race, 9 furlongs, as you say. He is the one to beat. He'll be a heavy favorite here, Matt. I actually think the second choice will be his stablemate from the Bob Baffert barn. That's Roadster. Roadster continues to get a lot of talk, Matt. And whether you like him in here or not, I think boils down to how much did the throat surgery change things? Because back last summer, he clearly was not as good as Game Winner in their one meeting.
I agree with that, Brian. He looked good in that allowance win back in March, but we're going to get the answer to how important that throat surgery was as he stretches out to 1 1/8 miles in here.
Yeah, 1 1/8 miles, I think, will probably benefit Game Winner more than Roadster. That's my opinion. A lot of people still like Roadster, so it's interesting to see what he can do against the strong competition of mainly his stablemate Game Winner. Now, Matt, the horse that Roadster beat in that allowance race, I think, is a little bit better than we saw in that race. Nolo Contesto broke a little funny. It was kind of a slow pace that day, which benefited Roadster more than him. He was stuck down on the rail. Roadster won by a couple lengths. Nolo Contesto really picked it up on the gallop out. I think Nolo Contesto at some odds has a shot to turn the tables on Roadster in here.
Yeah, as I was handicapping this race, I started with Roadster because I liked that allowance win, but in the end, I decided that Game Winner is the horse to put on top. But I do like Nolo Contesto. I feel that he's the other one that's going to benefit from the 1 1/8 miles distance, and maybe you're going to get a little bit of a price to put in the exacto with Game Winner. And then there's Instagram, the highly touted 2-year-old last summer went on the shelf and came back in the Gotham to run third. I was there that day. I thought it was a very poor performance from Instagram. He seems to be a little bit forgotten in here.
Yeah, and I actually like Instagram quite a bit better than you, Matt. I remember how good he was as a 2-year-old. You got to remember it was a long layoff he was coming off of. And he certainly was not cranked up by Jerry Hollendorfer's. That is the veteran Hall of Fame trainer style. Super hot pace in there. He chased it. He was pressured on the outside by a horse. He went wide into the stretch, and he got beat a little over a length. I think it was a really good prep that's going to totally change what kind of horse as far as conditioning he is this time. And I tell you what, Matt, I think that the speed of this race, or the lack thereof, really does benefit Instagram. I don't think Baffert wants Game Winner, nor does he want Roadster to try to go with Instagram early as their last prep for the Kentucky Derby. Therefore, I think Instagram gets the lead. And I think, I like Nolo Contesto as a long shot. Hey, fourth choice in a 6-horse field, he looks pretty good to me. And if the shorter horses, Instagram and Roadster, are struggling down the lane, Nolo Contesto is a great bet to get up for second. But just a sheer chance to beat Game Winner in here, I'm going to say Instagram has the best chance. If they let him alone just a little bit on the lead, I think you're going to see a much better horse than we did in the Gotham. I remember, I'm going to go back a few years, Matt, and I hate to do this to people. Again, it's showing my age. But I remember when Spend a Buck came back after a nice 2-year-old season, and Pancho Villa just outran him in a sprint in Aqueduct, coincidentally. And then, of course, Spend a Buck came back, and he was just better and better with each successive start all the way to a Kentucky Derby win. Is Instagram another Spend a Buck? Probably not. But I could see Instagram really moving forward. I think he's the biggest threat as the third choice to Game Winner in the Santa Anita Derby.
Hey, Brian, and we don't have to go any farther than last weekend's Florida Derby to see how dangerous it is when a horse gets loose on the lead.
Very true. Matt and I agree, though. Game Winner is the most likely winner as a heavy favorite in the Santa Anita Derby. I like Instagram a little bit. Matt's more on Nolo Contesto, third and fourth choice there for some betting options. Matt, let's just really talk about the rest of the card real quick. Basilica runs in the Royal Heroine. What a nice turf mare she is. And speaking of nice females, the Santa Anita Oaks, surprisingly, we finally do get the matchup between Bellafina and Chasing Yesterday. That
to me is very, very interesting that Baffert would come back in about 2 weeks with Chasing Yesterday. I know that that last start they went pretty slowly, so it probably didn't take too much out of her. But that is not a Baffert-like move in my eyes.
Yeah, 13 days after the Sunland Park Oaks victory, so interesting to see. He's got a horse on the rail in there who I think may show some speed against Bellafina, but certainly this is Bellafina's race to win. But Chasing Yesterday, Baffert says she's come back better than what she was before the race. So interesting to see, because I think they are two of the best 3-year-old fillies in the country. And then finally, at a strange time on the calendar, Matt, we have the Santa Anita Handicap, the big cap, if you will. And really, this looks like a pretty short field and probably a 2-horse race, honestly. McKinsey and Gift Box. Either one of them could be the best older dirt male in the country. So I'm interested to see, not so much from a betting standpoint, but to see what McKinsey, who I like a little bit better than Gift Box, but to see what both of them can do in the big cap at 1.25 miles.
At 1.25 miles, Brian. That's certainly a key in this race, and I'm going to lean more towards Gift Box.
You're okay, good. We're on opposite ends of that, Matt. I like that. I like when that happens. Hey, do you want to do a quick 180, if you will, and go from coast to coast? Matt, are you going to be at Aqueduct for the Wood Memorial nice card on Wood Memorial Day?
I will be there for the Wood Memorial and the other 4 graded stakes races on the card.
It's a wonderful card at Aqueduct Saturday, and if you're there, say hello to the good-looking guy with the white hair. That's Matt Schiffman. You know him as the HorseCenter co-host. Hey, Matt, let's start with the Wood Memorial, because I think looking at this field, there are a lot of potential winners. Tacitus, him of the great breeding, and Bill Mott Barn looks like the favorite in here, coming off a stakes record in the Tampa Bay Derby. That was his only start of the year.
Yeah, this is one of the deepest Wood Memorial races in many years, considering that we've got 3 horses in there with Derby Trail wins. That hasn't happened many times on this run up to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think they all have a lot to prove, and I'm not sure of the overall class of this deep field, as you call it, but I will agree with you, there are a lot of potential winners. Matt, I'm going to throw this out to you. Could the Florida Derby and the Wood Memorial both be won by a former claimer? We know Maximum Security won last Saturday. Hey, Tax started his first 2 races in claimers. he's gone up the scale since then.
I think it's very likely, and as a matter of fact, Brian Tax is going to be my top choice in here. He was a winner of the Withers last time out, almost 2 months ago, and Tax in there went the 1.125 distance that they're going in here. Tax has got 12 points in on the Derby Trail, so he needs to get a first or a second in there. But trainer Danny Gargan right away after the Withers win said he was going to the wood. He said with this horse, he likes to put a good couple months in between starts. He doesn't want to have the bounce. I guess he's a big bounce guy as a factor in there. I like what I saw from Tax in that race. And quite frankly, Brian, if he is the third choice, if he is 9-2, 5-1, I like those odds better than what we're going to get on Tacitus and my favorite horse, Heichel.
Yeah, Matt, I agree with you. First off, Tax, he's a son of Arch out of a Giants Causeway mare. The breeding is there for class and for distance. He's a really good-looking horse. He had 2 months between the Remsen. I thought he ran a very good race in the Remsen, his first race out of claiming ranks. And then he had 2 months now since the Withers. So it's a very familiar schedule for a big, strong, good-looking horse. I'm not sure I love the rail draw for Tax, but I think you're right. I think third choice, very interesting. I do like Tacitus a little bit better, him of great breeding as well. And that Tampa Bay Derby looked good to me, but I think there's even more possibly under the tank. Maybe he doesn't bounce back off that fast Tampa Bay Derby win, but I do see him as kind of the horse to beat. Heichel, I'm not as high on. We both talked about him in the Gotham with all that speed. He's never been 2 turns, and he's been picking up fast paces in those sprints. Now he's got to try to go 9 furlongs. I think it's a different kind of race, although there is speed in here. So Heichel's at least a threat.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's going to be the breakneck kind of fast pace that happened in the Gotham, but there is at least 2 legitimate horses that like to be on the lead that are going to produce what I think I will describe more as an honest pace in there. And hey, Heichel has done everything that trainer Kieran McLaughlin has asked him to do from start to start. There's been an increase in distance, an increase in class to stake, to graded stake, and he's responded in every single spot. Now, like you said, Brian, though, more questions. It's 2 turns. It's a 1.125. And it's a deeper field in here. So there are questions, but this is a horse that has stepped up every single time.
Yeah, you can't throw him out, that's for sure, Matt. I'm not going to bet him as the second choice, though. I think I will have a few dollars, though, on the Tampa Bay Derby runner-up. That's Pletcher's Outshine. Pretty lightly raced son of Malibu Moon, who's had 2 nice races in Florida. Thought the Tampa Bay Derby was good. He was a little wide, got a good stalking trip, though, and ran a very good race to be second behind Tacitus. He's the 4th choice probably or so in here, 4th or 5th choice. So I think he's a threat. Service has a pair in here in Final Jeopardy and Grump's Little Tots. I think either one on their best is a threat, but I'm not going to really go high on them. You mentioned the speed. I would say at least over deliver has got to be part of it. And also Not That Brady and then Joe Evia coming from Maryland. So they're all adding to the speed. But let me mention this horse, and I think he's going to be my top pick actually in here, Matt. That's Hoffa's Union. Knocked me over with a feather because I never thought I'd be picking a horse who's had 1 lifetime race in the Wood Memorial, but times are changing, my friend, and that's where we are in today's racing. Hoffa's Union was overpowering. The son of Union Rags was privately purchased off that huge win at Laurel, which was 2 turns, by the way. And now he's in the Mark Casse barn. I like how he's been working for this. And I think he can stalk, and I think he's a distance horse, and I think there's a reason that they paid a lot of money to get Hoffa's Union in the barn with the, I don't know, no superstars in here. Tacitus, I think, is the biggest one to beat. Tax, Heichel, Outshine. I think Hoffa's Union can win the Wood Memorial in his second career race, Matt.
Yeah, they were lining up to buy this horse privately, and it is important to note that they were doing that keeping in mind that this horse is a gelding. So there is no stallion future when they made the private purchase on this guy. Went to Cassie. He's been training at Cassie's farm in Ocala since then. And hey, we all know Cassie. He's willing to take a shot in the big races, and is doing it with Offa's Union, who along with a couple others like to sit just behind the pace. So it's an 11 horse field. It's going to be interesting to see how the pace plays out here and what the riders do.
Yeah, and we really don't know for sure what Hoffa's Union's going to do. He's only had that one race, and he was just way better than the rest of the field. I think he'll be just a little bit off the pace here, and I like him. I think he has big potential. Matt, let's just jump into a couple of my favorite races real quick on the undercard at Aqueduct that day that you're going to see, because I think the sprints, 7 furlong sprints at Aqueduct Saturday, are terrific. We'll start with the Bayshore. And you start from the rail, Matt, and you're looking at Much Better. You're looking at Mucho. You're looking at Mind Control and Call Paul. I think we've got not only some of the best 3-year-old sprinters in the country, but then you got a horse in Mucho who still, I think, could be any kind at any distance.
Yeah, you've got a bunch of very talented horses who took a little dabble on the Derby trail, and then their trainers decided, hey, let's stop with that. We took our try. I think I got a better sprinter here. I think I got a better one-turn horse. And they're, like you just rattled off, Brian, there's 4 or so of them that are very capable of winning that race.
Yeah, real deal sprinters. I think Mucho might be more than that. Mind Control has one going a little bit longer. Real nice race in the Bayshore. And then the Carter, it's not the best Carter by any means. There's some decent enough New York sprinters in there. There's a good New York bred. There's some quality speed in there. But I'm just intrigued a little bit because Vino Rosso and World of Trouble are 2 horses that I really like a lot. And World of Trouble is a horse I'm wondering, can he get the 7 furlongs against this kind of field? And Vino Rosso is a horse I'm wondering, can he drop down to 7 furlongs against this type of field? So I'm intrigued by the Carter and 2 horses I really like.
Yeah, and of course, Vino Rosso did win at 7 furlongs way back early in his career, and that was at Aqueduct. But yeah, that's a question of he's running into a quality sprinter in World of Trouble here, who could turn out to be a real contender for division honors at the end of the year.
I agree with you there, Matt. I think World of Trouble is that good, but Skylar's Scramjet is some serious speed to deal with for World of Trouble here going 7 furlongs. So I wouldn't put it past Vino Rosso from keeping his Aqueduct record intact. All right, Matt, let's shift gears one more time. We're going to go from New York to beautiful Lexington, Kentucky. We finally have some spring weather here in Kentucky. I'll be at the Bluegrass. I know it's not as big a story as Matt out at the Wood Memorial, but I'd love to shake hands with any HorseCenter fans that'll be at Keeneland on Saturday, Matt. And of course, we got to start with the Bluegrass, and it's a big, big, wide open field, Matt. Vacoma's the favorite, I guess, but I'm not sure. I mean, this is a wide open race.
It sure is, Brian. Field of 14, and if I'm not mistaken, not one of them has enough points to qualify for the Kentucky Derby at this point. 14 horses. I hope there's no snow on the ground this year, Brian.
We're talking 70 degrees here in Kentucky. No chance of snow. Vacoma has done a little wrong in his career, and he's coming off a pretty good third in the Fountain of Youth in his first race in a while. Although the Fountain of Youth didn't prove to be a key race heading into the Florida Derby, so we'll see. Another one I think should get a lot of money in here is Win, Win, Win from the Trombetta barn. Win, Win, Win off that Super Pasco where he just won for fun in amazing time. I think he was a little farther back in the Tampa Bay Derby than he needed to be, a little wider. Ran a good enough race to be third behind Tacitus and Outshine, who we talked from the Wood. So I think Win, Win, Win is one of the horses to beat in the Bluegrass as well.
Yeah, Brian, and getting back to Vacoma at 9-5 on the morning line in this 14-horse field, I want no part of Vacoma at those kind of odds. in this size field in there, Brian. And I think, Brian, you know who I'm going with in here. I'm sticking with my man Signal Man in here. His Fountain of Youth was if you want to say disappointment, a 7th place finish in his debut this year. Trainer Kenny McBeek said that he didn't have his horse cranked up in there, and I really believe that he'll have him ready in here. And I think Signal Man is the best horse. Love to get 5-1, Brian.
Yeah, I think you'll get 5-1, Matt, because let's say it like it is. The Fountain of Youth was a stinker because he got a strong pace in there and he got a good rail trip and he really didn't do much running. So he could bounce back, and he ran well to be second in the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity last fall. So nice, big, strong son of General Quarters has a chance in here for sure. You know what? I'm looking at a lot of horses in this race, but the other Signal Man, and I'm going to be the anti-Matt Schiffman here because I'm going to pick the other Signal Man in here. And what I mean by that is a horse coming off a stinker, and that's Dreammaker. Dreammaker really did not run down in Louisiana last time, but he had a bad start. He got steadied, he got bumped, and then he never really did much after that. He has a pip of a workout at Keeneland for trainer Mark Casse, and I think he's going to be ignored. I think double digits, yes, absolutely. He's going to be double digits in here. I think Dreammaker can bounce back in a big way. And Matt, you're picking Signal Man to bounce back as your top pick. I'm picking Dreammaker to bounce back as my top pick. But I don't want to stop there, Matt, because Some Like It Hot Brown has been absolutely terrific on turf and synthetics ever since a poor debut on a sloppy sprint race. That's his only dirt race. I think he's a threat with speed on the inside. A lot of horses are long shots. There's a series of long shots that are at least somewhat interesting on the outside here. Yep. So Alive for Todd Pletcher, I think, could really show up. Sir Winston is Casse's other horse, and if you look at his first 2 races of this year, they're not bad. So a lot of options in the Bluegrass.
Yeah, no question about that. But my top pick is Signal Man, and yours is Dreammaker.
Yeah, and we both agree. Vekoma 9-5, no thank you. He could win. I don't know if he'll be that low, but hard to like him at those odds. I'm actually a little bit more scared of, I believe, win. But Matt and I have some interesting odds horses in the Bluegrass. Matt, we also have to mention on the road to the Kentucky Oaks, we talked a little bit about Bellafina and Chasing yesterday already at Santa Anita facing off, but the Ashland came up as a nice prep for the Kentucky Oaks, and you got the champion there, Jaywalk, who disappointed in her only race at Gulfstream, but second race last year seemed to do well for her. So let's see what Jaywalk can do in this field in the Ashland.
Yeah, I think it came up a really nice field as Jaywalk tries to get back on stride and get into the Kentucky Oaks. You got the Chad Brown runner in here, Feedback, who is 2 for 2 in her career. She won the Forward Gal at Gulfstream last time. I think we'll be sitting a nice stalking trip in here. You got Restless Rider, Brian, a horse that you and I both have liked throughout her career. This is her 2019 debut. Tough spot to be making a debut for the year. And remember how well she ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year.
Yeah, I remember how well she ran at Keeneland as well, Matt, winning their big 2-year filly race. So, yeah, Restless Rider, McPeak planned this all along. She seems just like a really wonderful filly that you can do so much with. She's shown it with her consistency. Obviously, she likes Keeneland. So I'm not too worried about her showing up at least. Whether she wins might be another story, but I think she'll run a good race in here. I think Feedback, a little bit different than you. I think Feedback is a real threat to take it to Jaywalk early. I think Feedback has that kind of speed. So I wonder if the two of them will hook up in here, and they might be the 2 favorites, even ahead of Restless Rider. Another horse I want to mention because I like her is Chocolate Kisses, Matt. Chocolate Kisses has run on turf quite a bit in her career, but if you look at her dirt races, I like them. I think she sits 4th of the 4 favorites we're talking about here, and I think Chocolate Kisses might be moving forward off that win at Oaklawn Park. So a real nice race in the Ashland. Matt, we just zipped through a lot of good races coming up on Saturday in a short amount of time. I hope everyone enjoyed that. Let's real quick talk about what happened last week. I think there's two things I really want to talk about. That's the Florida Derby. And Javier Castellano may be one of the best riders in America, and I'm sure he is. But I was left a little bit scratching my head after seeing Hidden Scroll just pulled off the lead, off the pace, and Maximum Security running alone on an easy lead and an easy pace. It made me want to throw the Florida Derby completely out as I handicap the Kentucky Derby.
I think that's fair enough, because now we won't see a Hidden Scroll, obviously, in the Kentucky Derby, and we will see Maximum Security in the Kentucky Derby, and okay, that's fine. The thing I like about that is maybe we'll have a little bit of a front runner in the Kentucky Derby, which we haven't had in many years, but I certainly don't see that horse as a threat to win or hit the board in the Derby.
Yeah, mark it down, folks. Mark it down now, folks. Matt and I will look awfully foolish if Maximum Security goes on to win the Kentucky Derby, because I, like Matt, just don't like him at all moving forward. He's undefeated. He's doing great things down in South Florida. But as a Kentucky Derby horse, bet him with both hands, because I want better odds on my horses. Maximum Security will not be one of them. Code of Honor and Bourbon War really had little shot with that pace, Matt, and maybe they can bounce back with a better pace in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's fair to leave those two, especially Code of Honor, because we know that he's going to get in the field. I think Bourbon War is kind of on the bubble at this point.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, over across the pond there in Dubai, of course, it was the big evening, Dubai World Cup. First thing I want to say, and you might have a thing or two to mention about the Americans, we did quite well in several of the undercard races over there at Dubai.
Yeah, we certainly did. XY Jet in his third start finally took down the Golden Shaheen after the scratch of Roy H. a few days earlier, who came up with an abscess in his hoof. And Colefront was an impressive winner of the Godolphin Mile for Todd Pletcher, and we've got an interesting horse in the older male division in Colefront.
Yeah, that was a nice determined run by Colefront to win the Godolphin Mile. XY Jet was terrific again on the lead there in the Golden Shaheen. Pluquet Parfait bounced back after looking really less than stellar over here in America and won the UAE Derby to punch his ticket to the Kentucky Derby. But the big one, of course, was the Dubai World Cup. Thunder Snow outdid Gronkowski. Gronkowski came up big at big odds. Gunavera was a late running third. It was not a great Dubai World Cup, Matt, but I tell you what, Thunder Snow has now won the UAE Derby and the first horse ever to win 2 Dubai World Cups. If you're talking the history of Dubai racing, Thunder Snow has to go down as one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, hats off to Thunder Road. He's building up quite a bankroll from winning the Dubai World Cup, and I think we'll get to see him come over to America for some races later in the year. Oh, Gronkowski! I guess Gronkowski is turning out to be a real thorn in my side.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to throw him in my trifectas, which paid handsomely, Matt. But Thunder Snow, all credit to Thunder Snow. He collared Gronkowski and he got him there. And we will see Thunder Snow in America later this year. And, he's as good a bet as any right now, as if you're looking forward to the Breeders' Cup Classic. All right, folks, that's our show this week on HorseCenter. We hope you enjoy a fantastic day of racing. May the horses come home sound and healthy. Matt, can I get a parting shot from you, sir?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Brian. Good trips for all of the horses, better things down the road for horse racing, and this weekend is a good reason. And as always, I want to thank our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
Thank you to Brett. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hope Matt and I can see you out there, respectively, at Aqueduct and Keeneland this weekend. Have a great week. We'll see you next week right here on HorseCenter.